What I usually do is when I do a pre-flight, I usually start on the left side of the wing. I always check the wing first because I feel that's priority over anything else. I go through and I obviously check here, check the bolts, I touch everything. I pull on the cables, just check the connection here, just from this side, just to see what it looks like. I'll come back to that later. Then I come here and I touch this to make sure that this is actually clipped on. Then inside here, there's a little, there's a little safety in there. And I use this little handy dandy light to look in there to see. And sometimes you have to kind of look at it at an angle to see that.
Okay.
Okay.
And what am I looking for?
If you look in here on the top side of this one, see on the top side of that one, it's a castle nut, so it has the safety that goes through it.
Okay.
Yep, the cotter pin.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I always check that. I do that when I do like a test flight. When I'm going to be doing a test flight, that's one of the big things that I check.
Okay.
It shouldn't go anywhere. Just once in a while I'll double check that. It's not something you would have to do on a regular pre-flight.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't. I always double check these. If I can't get this down, I feel to make sure that I can feel threads sticking out. Yep.
Okay, I did that.
Okay, it's a little hard to come in here, so I'll show you actually on this wing. So we'll just do this one side. But I do the same thing. I always feel it across here. I come across and I check the leading edge to make sure that there's nothing that I need to worry about. I always start on the left and work my way around.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you want to do is up here, you pull the wing down to check it. Again, you check to make sure it has the threads. You want to check and make sure it has the threads.
Okay.
Open this up. And what you want to check for is a couple of things. You want to make sure the safety is in here.
Okay.
You want to check the bolt to make sure these bolts are here. Behind this, there's a couple more bolts. I put my fingers back there, just check to see. I feel the head underneath here. And on top, this one's important on the top. It's one of the same ones that go through the little safety pins that go through the wing. It's the same thing. I just feel and make sure that that's actually tight, that's actually hooked.
Is there a safety pin in it?
Yeah, here,
there
go
is.
feel it. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Stick your finger up there so you know what I mean. Put it right into the cross tube.
Oh.
You feel it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always make sure that that's clasped.
Okay.
Here, okay? It's the same thing.
Okay.
Just always check and make sure, touch it to make sure that it's not like somehow starting to come out.
Yeah.
What I also do is I'll stick my head in here and I'll check the webbing. So I check to see how much spacing's on the webbing to make sure that it's kind of similar. Because I'm going to compare it to the other wing. Now sometimes if there's like a turn or something, maybe some of the webbing is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But since this one's all set for you, take note of it. If you want to, you can actually go in there and take a marker and you can mark where it is. So that way you always have a reference too.
Okay.
Always make sure you close up your zippers. Do not get distracted. When I taxi, that's something that I'm checking to make sure all my zippers are closed. These ones, this one. These ones I almost never open.
Okay.
Even on this type of a pre-flight. Hi, but what I want to show you is I take the tip of the wing and I check to make sure this yellow strap is here.
Okay.
I check to make sure here. There's Velcro right here that holds the leading edge in.
Okay.
It's just more of a safety precaution, but I do check that. I also take this and I wiggle this because I want to compare the tightness to each of the two sides. So I check this just to make sure that it feels the same. I'll actually look all the way down. As I'm looking down, I'm checking the webbing, I'm checking the safeties, I'm checking the sprogs. I take this and I wiggle it just in case, you know, something might be askew or maybe there's a crack or something shows up that's a little funny. Never had anything happen like that, but I just do double check it. As I'm at the tip, I'm also checking all the strings to make sure they're done. And then I actually come back here and I'll look at every single one of them specifically. I don't just do a scan, I check every single one of them. As I'm doing that, I'm again checking the zippers because you can see them nicely from here.
Yeah.
I'll come up here, I'll do a quick glance up there to see if there's anything awry or it seems kind of funny. Then I come over here to here. And again, I check all the bolts, I told you that. Make sure these pins are in. See how this is like this? You just want to make sure that it's not going to come out. It has the safety on the other side. So if I release this, it has a little safety. See how it sticks out?
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure you kind of tug on that. Depending upon if you're getting ready to fly right away and if it's inside or outside the hangar, I'll actually go ahead and get the seat belt. If you're flying by yourself, I'll get the seat belt all tightened up, so that's taken care of. Then I come here, I check the pressure. As I'm checking the pressure, check the bolts. I look down here, I check and go like this. I touch with my hand to see if there's any kind of fluids or anything like that.
Okay.
I check through here. I'm touching everything. I just go through and check it. Inside here, it's a little harder to see on this side, but I check the engine right here. See how the safety is with the engine mount?
Okay.
There's 4, so I check that. There's one here, up here, on the other side the same. So I double check that. Check these, make sure that this is all good. I grab this because this has been known to come off. It does have a safety on it, but it has been known to come off, so I check that. I check this one. You know, this has a seat belt, so I just kind of wiggle it to make sure the Velcro's all tight here. I look up here, I see the zippers are done as well. Check here, this is in all the way. Just double check that. I take the light, I wiggle it. You can see these are clasped, so that's all set. Check in here. You want to make sure that there's no fuel coming out here. On the other side, I'll run my finger along the fuel to check and see if there's anything in there. I check the battery as I'm going through, just check the connections. Make darn sure these caps are tight. Every single one of them. There's one here, there's one here,
Where's
right here, and then this one. And this one tends to loosen, so always check that. As I'm standing here, I'll wiggle this, check to make sure that these bolts are in. I take my fingers across, check to see if there's any kind of oil or anything I should worry about. Check to make sure the spark plugs are in all the way. I pull on the exhaust to check that. I'll check the throttle, check the choke, just to make sure that all the cables look okay. Checking the air filters, make sure the safety's on, nothing's, askewing it. Then I come around here, check the prop. I usually run my fingers, but be very careful because I have caught carbon fiber slivers, so it's not nice. So I just really double check, and I just and make sure you look on both sides. Just because one side's good does not mean the other side's not. I grab this, check that. It's got a little spinner cone on it. I check that. Come through here, do the exact same thing as what I did on that side, oil, etc. Here's another, here's another one of the, for the engine mount, just so you can see what it looks like. I double check this. There's really no way to check the pressure in the tires. Again, now I'm coming up this way. I make sure my little chutes are always straight. That's just something I like. Double check up here. Now I'm starting to look at the mast because now I'm coming to the other side of the wing. So now I'm checking to make sure all those bolts are done. I make sure I have a visual on that safety and make sure that I double check and make sure that it's open. Not open, closed I mean. Same with this one that's going through the hang bolt. And then I'm checking to see where the position is of the bolts that are up at the top. I double check these, the instructor package. I make sure that those are all on correctly. Again, I tug. Now my eyes are going up here. So I'm just double checking and making sure that all those safeties are through there. I look to see, and I'll actually physically get a ladder and I'll pull on the antenna and twist it to make sure the antenna's tight. Also on the keel, what you want to do is you want to get a ladder up there, and you actually want to pull back that little, the Delrin that's up there, you want to pull that back, and you want to look because there's actually a little safety that's up there, just like this kind of safety. That's up there also, so you just want to make sure that that's there. And you want to really make sure, and you can kind of see it from here, you just want to make sure that the hull back is actually hooked through where it's supposed to be, and that little doorway, that little gate is closed, and that the hull back itself is tucked in there.
Let me get a ladder.
Okay, better step down. I usually bring this right in here. It can actually slip past if you do it at an angle. Lift the black strap that you see right there, and you'll see what I'm talking about. See that hull back in the gate? You want to just make sure that metal piece is under that.
Under that.
Yeah.
And then
that's
the little
hull
clip.
back, and the little gates.
And
closed.
this is just to pull on it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Now, since you're up there, take the Delrin that's up there.
What's a
Go
Delrin?
in front of the strap, and see that little black piece. Yeah. Now bring your hand back. Stop. Take that and flip it up. There you go. And you're going to check and see, and you're going to see where the haul back is. See how that's clasped down there? You see the little safety? The safety is in the front. So flip it forward more. What I'm talking about? The little safety? You just want to double check that. Next thing was you just double check the cotter pin in here.
Oh.
But yours actually is a little different because of you have the windshield on. So you just want to go through. You want to make sure that all of these are tight. You want to turn them, make sure that they're nice and tight, that they're not going to go anywhere. As I'm here, I'm checking these. I touched the safeties, but we've already done the wing, so it's kind of mute. Double check through here. You know, you want to make sure the steering dampener is not going anywhere. You want to wiggle it. Check the brake fluid. You want to come over here, check the fluids, make sure that there's no brake fluid. Come around here. You're double checking, making sure that these are all in and that they're nice and tight. Check and make sure that we're not going to have any kind of interference here. Check the pressure of the tires. Coming around here, checking to make sure that nothing looks awry or askew. Everything looks the way it should. Wiggle the lights. Make sure those are secure. Double check and see where your throttles are. Especially if you have two throttles, you want to make darn sure this back throttle is back all the way. Especially before you take flight. Before I even start up, I always look, even though I've gone through and pre-flighted, what I do is as soon as I get in, I make sure that throttle, as soon as I get in, I double check and make sure this throttle's off. Same with this and the choke. You just want to go through and check that. Again, we've already checked this. But you want to come down here and you want to check here to make sure that everything's secure underneath. You want to check these bolts as well. So you just want to go through and do that. Check and see if anything, you know, any fuel is leaking. Then you're going to go through and check your fluids. You're going to check your fuel, you're going to check your oil. Just make sure that all of that's correct. I'm sure you've gone through that with Larry. So if there's anything else that's like major.
Cool.
That was kind of a down and dirty way to do that. But oh, I know something else I didn't go through. So with the hang block, what I actually do is I take my shoes off because I'm going to get into the aircraft and I don't want to like step on the seats and mess it all up. So I take my shoes off, and yours is a little harder because you have the roll cage. But I'll physically get up here. And you open this up. If you need to, you open those if you need more space. But I always want to make sure that these cables, these are the trim cables, are on the outside of the keel pocket. This is the keel. Well, that's a keel pocket, but this is the keel strap. You want to make sure these are outside. If you have a vicious turn and you can't figure out why, check your cables. There's a good chance that one of the cables is stuck inside this.
Huh.
Yep. And then you come over.
How would that make it turn?
Because the trim cable, because this actually tightens up when you're in flight and can pull the cable one way or the other, and it'll actually affect your flying. And then you want to check your trim right here. You want to check your connection. Make sure your connection's good.
Is that the connection up there?
Yep.
Is that the one you disconnect when you're taking the wing off?
Correct.
Or, oh, it is.
Yes.
Up in there?
Yes, right here.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then your trim is actually up here.
Yeah.
But as I'm up here, I double check. Every time I can get a second glance at something, I second glance it. You just want to make sure that everything's good.
Right.
You can tuck this up.
Huh.
Ow. And while I'm up here, well, actually, I'm going to open myself again. I double check these. And I would go on the other side and just make sure that the threads are showing through. I check that. As I'm here, there's also these bolts that are going through. I check that. I check and make sure these are all okay by touching them on the down tubes. You know, check this. This is your Jesus strap. I check that. Make sure that that safety's in. Double check the light again. If you need to connect anything for the lights when the front roll cage is off, I check to make sure the safety's in here. Check, make sure my antenna's connected. All that stuff. Oh, and then there's one other thing too in the back. There's the, right here, right there is that little strap right there. You just want to make sure that that's just snug. It doesn't have to be tight or anything like that. It's not major if it's loose or anything like that. It's not like a danger or anything you should be really concerned about. But you just want to make sure that it's kind of tight, just snug. Then as I step out, again, I double check all my zippers are done because that's one of the easiest things to forget. And double check all of that, and that's it.